Cross-site scripting, or as we also know it, XSS, is an enormously important risk. In fact, it's up there in the number 3 position in the OWASP Top 10 Web Application Security Risks. And we're looking at how they describe the risk right here. And the two things that really stand out here is number one, the prevalence. It is very widespread. XSS is all over the place. And not only is it all over the place, but it's very easy to detect. So that means it's very easy for attackers to detect the presence of an XSS risk. It also means it's very easy for you as an ethical hacker to find it yourself. And we're going to look at how to do that in this module. So that's just a quick introduction to put XSS into context and establish just how important it really is. Let's now move on and actually mount an XSS attack. We're going to look at a couple of different styles of XSS attack in this module. And the first one is reflected cross-site scripting. And I want to give you an example of what I mean by reflection because that's a key concept here. So let's do this. I'm going to go up to the search box and I'm going to search for Pluralsight. Now there are no matches for the word Pluralsight. We have no supercards with the word Pluralsight in them. But that's fine because what I'm really interested in here is the way the search term has been reflected. And what I mean by reflected is that we can see the search term appear in the response in two different places. So we can see it in the original search box, and we can also see it in that heading, you searched for Pluralsight. So this is reflection. You give something to the system, and then the system shows it back to you in the response. Now the interesting thing here is that the something that you give the system is untrusted data. And we now know that we can tamper with untrusted data and potentially cause the system to do unexpected things. Just to illustrate precisely how this reflection works, if I press Ctrl-U to view the source code of this page, and then I do a search for Pluralsight, we can see one result here on line 55, so that's the heading, and then we can see another result down here on line 81, which is where the search term was reflected back into the search box itself. So the point again is that we can give the system data and then the system will write the data into the source code. Now let's close that tab. And what I want to do now is mount my cross-site scripting attack. Now you'll notice here that I'm logged in. It says Hello Troy up there in the navigation bar. And what this attack is going to do is take advantage of my authenticated state. So I am the victim. Now in the scenario that we're going to run here, someone has sent me a link. That's all it is, just a URL. It could be via social media, it could be via email. The channel doesn't really matter so much. The important thing is that I'm going to follow a URL that someone has sent me. So here's the URL that I've been sent, the malicious URL with the reflected cross-site scripting attack in it. I'm going to load this address and see what happens. And here we go. Nothing interesting to see here at all. Apparently, no results found for the search. Now, what you can't immediately see here, and certainly what the victim can't immediately see, is that my authentication token, the thing that keeps me logged into the website as I browse around, was just stolen by the attacker. In fact, the only thing that looks at all odd on this screen is the broken image off to the left. And I've actually left that there intentionally just to give some little indicator of what's going on. Let me explain how this works. Anything that we pass in the URL as part of the search term query string, so you can see it up there, gets reflected in the source code of the page. We saw that earlier on when I searched for Pluralsight. Now what I've done is reflected some JavaScript, and that JavaScript adds an image to the page. Now the source of that image is what's interesting, and a really good way to show you what that looks like is if I press F12 to open my developer tools, I'm on the network tab. Now if I reload the page, we're going to see this request go back out. And what we can see towards the bottom of this set of requests is one that goes to the domain evilcyberhacker.com. That's my domain. I use it for demonstrations like this. and clearly it is an evil cyber hacker's domain. And the path that is being requested is log cookies with the query string of cookies equals, and then we can see some other text off the end of that. Let's drill down on this request and take a closer look at the URL. So here you can see the whole thing. And what we're actually seeing is a number of different cookies. So there's one here which is visit start. So that's a cookie that gets set every time the session begins. We can see an affinity cookie here. Azure sets this in order to implement sticky sessions. But most importantly is that we can see an auth cookie. Now I talk extensively about auth cookies in my ethical hacking session hijacking course. And what you see in that course is that once an attacker has that auth cookie, they can go and hijack the session. They just simply recreate this cookie in their own browser. Now, why was this resource requested? So why is this URL here being requested? Well, if we go up and scroll down a little bit to look at the image and right click on that and jump into inspect element, we can see here down the bottom of the screen that the URL is actually the source of an image. So the evilcyberhacker.com address was set by the reflected cross-site scripting attack, and it included all of the cookies. So effectively we've just sent the cookies off to that external site by defining it as the source of an image. Now we can go and have a look at how the server responded as well. I'll just right click on the image source, open the link in a new tab, and here you can see logged your cookies. So this is actually evilcyberhacker.com that's responded. They now have my cookies. The last thing I'll do is just close that tab and then view the source code of the page. If I now do a search for evil cyberhacker, we'll see that untrusted data reflected once in this first location, which is where we saw Pluralsight before, it's in the heading, and a second time down here where the value of the search was set back in the text box. And this is really where the XSS attack is executing. And if we have a look at the URL, you can see precisely what the search term query string is, and I can highlight it here where it's been reflected in the source code. So it's everything from this single quote all the way through to the // towards the end of this script block. So let's talk through this logically. I've closed off the jQuery val function and terminated that statement. That then gives me some clean air, if you like, to then write my own JavaScript. I've then declared an image and set the image source to this evil cyberhacker address. I'm passing a query string of log cookies, and I'm adding to that document.cookie. Now document.cookie will get all of the cookies that the client script has access to. And a little bit later on, I'm going to talk about how to prevent this style of attack from doing that. I'm then appending that image into the body. Now this is happening in the DOM, in the document object model of the browser. So it's actually the browser reading these instructions and doing this after the site already loads. I then go through and find the heading 2 tag, which is where we would normally reflect the search term. But the search term is all of this attack script. So what I've actually done is changed the value that was loaded from the server and replaced the contents of that h2 tag with nothing interesting to see here at all. I then terminate that statement, and the // is used to comment out the remaining JavaScript so that there are no errors in the browser. So there are a few different things happening here, but it is fundamentally a simple attack. Now, if you'd like to understand this in more detail, go and have a look at both that ethical hacking session hijacking course and also my Hack Yourself First course, where I go into a lot of detail on cross-site scripting. For now though, that is how a reflected cross-site scripting attack can execute. Let's now move on and take a look at a persistent cross-site scripting attack.